GameStop's long-running magazine Game Informer has posted a farewell to their social media pages, saying that after 33 years, the company and magazines were shutting down operations.
Honestly, the last 8 years or so of the magazine were really bland anyway. It's like they didn't really even care that they were an advertising magazine. But whatever, what's worse is that this message is how a lot of people found out that they were being laid off, which for fucking GameStop is about par for the course.
While Game Informer is now officially dead, we do have some good news for some of its audience. The crew of Game Informer's podcast has started their own YouTube channel, so if you like some of their stuff, you might want to give MinMax a look.
Welcome to Necro News, the show where we cover the hottest gaming news from the last week, and we're officially 2 years old now. Yay. This week's pretty heavy, like me after a Big Mac, so we'll be covering Jonathon Blow being a complete tosspot, Michael Bay's Skibidi Toilet, Romhacking.net effectively shutting down, and a whole lot more.
Be sure to subscribe to keep up to date with the hottest gaming news. We post videos every Monday.
Ellie, you were not nearly as deep into video games as you are now, but at the time that this happened, do you remember Phil Fish screaming to his fanbase that they could suck his dick and choke on it?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, okay. Yeah, Fez was stupid, but whereas Phil Fish was an aggressive piece of shit about his art, on the completely opposite end of the spectrum, there was another man named Jonathon Blow who created Braid.
What is Braid?
A pretentious platformer made by a pretentious man who cried because Soulja Boy enjoyed it.
You? And ain't got no point to the game. You just walk around jumping on shit.
And it just got a remaster?
Yes, that's right. It did. And it sold badly. In fact, to quote Jonathon Blow, it sold like dog shit. In fact, according to him, the entire future of his entire company is uncertain.
But despite the poor sales, Jonathon seems happy with Braid, going on to say, at some point you just have to know that what you did was a good thing, even if the world doesn't really acknowledge it, and this is one of those cases, I think. So what I'm getting is, he's unhappy when his game did well, but then he's happy when it sold like shit.
No, he's just a pretentious artist.
Did he make anything else besides Braid?
I am so glad you asked.
He asks us, what is the expenditure of art? Some would say incalculable. Jonathon Blow would say $40.
Alright, I stalled enough time on this. We gotta get this over with. Let's talk about Skibidi Toilet. And in case you boomers out there don't know exactly what a Skibidi Toilet is, quick and dirty is that it was a series of source filmmaker videos that featured this guy fighting against a bunch of TV-headed guys and was, in general, your usual SFM bullshit.
However, Skibidi Toilet for some reason blew up on TikTok and became the meme we know today, which of course meant that it also became a very questionable content farm on YouTube Kids.
Skibidi Toilet, presumably because of the YouTube Kids and general meme popularity, is getting a movie made by Paramount Pictures and directed by Michael Bay.
Now you'd think that'd be the end of the story, but it's not. On Sunday, Gary Newman, creator of Gary's Mod, revealed that the Skibidi Toilet team had issued him a DMCA for use of characters such as Titan Cameraman, Titan TV Man, and Titan Speaker Man, which had all been copyright claimed by Invisible Narratives, which is ironic since Skibidi Toilet is made using assets from Half-Life 2 and made in Gary's Mod.
However, in a twist, DeFuckBoom, the creator of the Skibidi series, said that he never sent out any DMCA and in fact would never send out anything like it. In fact, the only thing he ever tries to take down is Skibidi being used as a way to promote disgusting adult content for YouTube Kids.
On the 30th, Gary got with DeFuckBoom and everything had been settled and resolved, except figuring out who sent the DMCA.
If you're into emulation, then you may have heard about romhacking.net. If you aren't, well, it's one of the main pillars of the ROM hacking scene and sadly has announced that it will be shutting down just about everything except the site's news and forums after 20 long years.
To give a little more context, the site's famous for bringing together the ROM translation and hacking communities. This allowed for translation patches to be made for games that were never released in other regions. Which is great because unless you knew where to look, you'd never find these fan-translated games or ROM hacks.
You could think of romhacking.net as kind of like a lighthouse for people. As you can imagine, people were making fan patches for games, translating ROMs, bringing them over here, making a whole entire new games from Romhacks like Pokemon Prism, and it was all thanks to one guy who ran the entire site by himself, Nightcrawler. That's the wrong Nightcrawler, Skull.
However, as time went on, the user base exploded, because duh, you couldn't find uncensored Bravely Default or Romhacks for Pokemon anywhere else. And as you can expect, dealing with endless technical issues, mean messages, and copyright claims took their toll on Nightcrawler, and he decided he needed help.
So Nightcrawler began to seek out a like-minded group, or maybe even a cool individual to take over running the site. According to him, an internal group from nethacking.net volunteered to help continue the site, but as he started and failed to migrate parts of the operation to them, Nightcrawler claimed that the group was actually planning to dox him and mar his good reputation. So in an attempt to get a jump on things and to protect him and his family, we're where we are now.
Basically, Nightcrawler has released the entire database of the site, minus sensitive account info, to the Internet Archive, and the site is, like we said earlier, a news forum now. But because everyone loves drama, there is some debate as to how legitimate Nightcrawler's statements are. A veteran localizer and someone involved with the group that Nightcrawler was going to transfer stuff to, Gideon G, claimed that Nightcrawler was stubborn and was just going to shut down the site with no archive being made.
I don't know if I believe that or not, but according to Gideon, it's because of this group seeking Nightcrawler out that the archive was even made. Now, we can't verify any of this because it's a he said, she said situation, so we've just linked both statements and the site archive down below. If you're interested in the archive, just make sure you don't open it in your browser because there's a crap ton of stuff in there that'll slow your browser to a crawl. Trust me, I know. Well, that's it for the meaty stories this week. However, there were a whole lot of stories that didn't have a whole lot to them.
That's right, it's time for another
Headline Hack.
We'll start with Bungie. This week, Bungie laid off 220 employees, and it's come out that these employees were going to be laid off regardless of the success of Destiny's final DLC.
To rub salt in the wound, the CEO of the company ended up spending $2.3 million on classic cars. Cars that he even invited employees to come and look at, only days before laying them off. So think of him when you look at games like Halo or Destiny being killed.
Stop killing games! Ross Scott's campaign for game preservation since Ubisoft took down the crew is still ongoing. Just last Wednesday, he posted a video on his channel that announced the start of a European Citizen Initiative campaign. The campaign requires 1 million signatures from EU citizens to continue on to the next stage.
If you're an EU citizen and you want companies to no longer have a digital kill switch for your games, kind of like what they did with the crew, we've linked his video and the campaign in the description. If you do go on to sign it, be careful as you cannot make a mistake. If you do, you won't get a do-over. On the topic of do-overs, Second Wind, the channel founded by Yahtzee and practically every video maker for The Escapist after they fired this guy, is apparently undergoing some issues because of him.
Sebastian Ruiz, also known as Frost, posted to Twitter that he was resigning from Second Wind due to conflicts with Nick over how he was handling the fledgling company, and also how Nick can't shut up on Twitter, which has been destroying their image for advertisers. Kinda like someone else I know.
I've been better. Anyway, the resignation letter is pretty damn brutal, so naturally, we've put it up here for everyone to read. Someone else on the marketing side also resigned alongside Frost, so we'll keep you posted to see if Second Wind is losing its breath.
Microsoft and Activision are giving existing IPs a second wind by making a team within Blizzard for making AA games. This might sound good, except the team is being fielded with members from the King Company, which, so it's likely there will be a mobile division.
And I bet you're right. Every single one of them will be a terrible, shitty gacha game. Just like Girls Frontline, whose devs, Sunborn, were selected to be a part of the United Nations Midsummer Concert Series this August. They'll be performing music from the series and a half-hour animation. No word if this is something the public will get to see. Why does the UN have a concert series?
Why does the Olympics exist?
That's a good point. Speaking of the Olympics...
This week it was revealed that the tradition of having a Mario and Sonic Olympics game is dead, thanks entirely to the Olympic Committee shifting their focus on the digital front.
So instead of having neat games that celebrate two of gaming's most beloved icons, Waluigi and Daisy, they're looking into new partners. Esports and NFTs!
Because the Olympics can't possibly get any sadder.
And finally, in more sad news, Roblox's TF2 knockoff has gotten its own hacker wave on the heels of Valve fixing their botting problem.
It's Roblox, so really who cares because they exploit kids. So it's not that sad.
Fuck!
Dummy.
This week's Buried Alive Banger, a segment where we cover a game our community doesn't think has had enough attention, is called Cataclismo.
It's an RTS where you build stuff, and it's by one of Skull's new favorite companies, Hooded Horse. Booster and I were sent a code by the developers, and it's been a pretty decent game, though it's still in early access. Here's the trailer.
And here's the games coming out for the next 2 weeks. Why are we doing 2 weeks of games? Because it's vacation time.
And it's also Booster's birthday tomorrow, so you better wish him a happy birthday. Or else. No schedule for this week because we'll be going on a 2-week break. However, we still might do a stream on the 8th, but that's to be determined.
And that's it for this week's Necro News. If you like what we do here and want to keep up to date, subscribe to the channel.
And give us a cake emoji if you made it this far into the video because it'll also be my birthday this week.
And as always, a very special thank you to our channel members and everyone who has donated to the coffee so far. The model hasn't been paid off, but it is on track for the model debut on the 24th, so mark your calendars.
That's all we have for this week, but we'll be back on the 19th. So until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.